The sky was empty and starless as our time machine broke through to the other side. Thick clouds of dust and debris swirled all around, blocking any glimpse of what lay beyond. An eerie silence gripped the small vessel as we took in this strange new world. I was Dr. Sarah Cooper, renowned physicist and leader of our expedition. With me were my colleagues Jane Schmidt, Victor Petrovsky, and Eduardo de Rosa. We had embarked on this daring mission hoping to peer into potential futures of Earth through precise manipulations of the space-time continuum. Our calculations suggested we would emerge just 100 years from our present in the year 2122. But it was immediately clear something had gone terribly wrong. "Readings are off the chart," said Jane, staring intently at her monitor. "Mass, gravity, atmospheric composition, nothing matches what we expected to find." Victor swiveled in his seat, running massive hands through graying hair. "By all indications, we are not near Earth at all. This dust, this void, it is like nothing in our known universe." Eduardo muttered worriedly in Italian as he double-checked our navigational systems. I gripped the armrest tightly, mind racing through every possibility. We had trained for anomalies and uncertainties, but nothing could have prepared us for this. "Everyone stay calm," I said firmly. "Let's rationally assess the situation before jumping to conclusions." Eduardo, do scanning sweeps within 100 meters. Jane and Victor, analyze particle and radiation levels. I want hard data to understand what we're dealing with here. For several tense minutes, the only sounds were those of instruments humming and beeping as readings came in. A grave silence fell over the cabin as analysis was completed. "Sarah," Jane said hesitantly, "I don't think this is a local phenomenon. Sweep scans show this void stretches as far as we can detect in every direction." My blood ran cold at the implication. An entire empty region of space? But how is that possible without distorting the very laws of physics? Victor shook his head slowly. "Radiation levels are fractions of what they should be near a solar system, even a dying one. And these particle traces, I have never seen anything like them. Whatever happened here, it was not natural." We all looked at each other nervously. Our mission had stumbled into a discovery far greater than any of us could comprehend. A silent void where matter and energy seemed stripped away. The only question was, what could cause such complete absence? My mother always said curiosity would be the death of me. Eduardo tried to lighten the mood, but even his usually cheerful face was etched with worry. "Any theories, Daughteressa?" I leaned back, processing the clues before us. Something here did not add up. "Let's not jump to conclusions yet, but I believe this region was almost surgically excised, as if matter was deliberately removed on an immense scale." Victor raised an eyebrow speculatively. "You suggest intelligent design?" A series of beeps interrupted us before I could respond. Jane straightened at her screen. "Sarah, you need to see this. I'm picking up a signal, faint but unmistakable." We gathered around anxiously as she increased magnification on the source. At first, it was just another swirling cloud of dust, but soon structures emerged, hanging suspended in the emptiness like strange balloons or pods. They were clustered around a central oblong object that pulsed with an eerie blue glow. "That glow, could it be an energy signature?" I asked, transfixed. "Only one way to find out," said Eduardo with a wink. Despite the danger, his adventurous spirit was shining through. I took a deep breath. "Set course, maximum sublight speed. Eduardo, keep shields at maximum. Everyone else, battle stations. We're going in for a closer look." The enclosed void contrasted starkly with the bustling world we'd departed from Earth just days ago, at least according to our vessel's timeline. My choice to approach unidentified anomalies went against protocol, but curiosity outweighed caution. A discovery of this magnitude demanded answers, whatever the risks. As we flew in, details emerged on the strange constructs surrounded that pulsing blue orb. They were spherical pods arranged in symmetrical clusters, woven together with filigree wisps resembling gossamer cobwebs. Their pale ovoid shapes blended eerily into the dust-filled backdrop. "Life signs?" I asked, barely daring to hope. Jane scanned intently. "I'm picking up minimal bio readings from the pods, but they're faint and unusual. Nothing matches known physiology. An intelligence out here in the emptiness beyond all understanding? My palms grew clammy at the thought. Just then a flash of light lit up a pod near the central orb. Cracks formed along its surface like a fracturing eggshell. A section peeled back to reveal an opening within. We all leaned forward, straining screens for our first glimpse. Then a form emerged. It floated effortlessly from the pod, limbs and odd protuberances moving with boneless grace. Its translucent body was wrapped in wisps, not unlike the filaments connecting the pods, patterned with swirling glyphs that pulsated softly. Where a head might be protruded, clusters of tendrils that waved gently in unseen currents. It was impossible to tell if it noticed us hovering nearby, but it drifted serenely through the void. The tendrils swayed almost meditatively, as if absorbing information from the region through some unknown sense. Victor broke the awed silence. "Doctor, I do not believe this is a life form from Earth's evolutionary path." "No," I replied quietly. "We are witnessing something entirely new. A sapient entity adapted to exist outside the constraints of matter and energy as we understand them." My mind raced with possibilities. If these beings could manipulate the physical world on such a scale, transforming an entire region into an empty void, what unfathomable technologies must they possess? What vast intelligence allowed them to evolve outside the limits of corporal existence? I steepled my fingers thoughtfully. There is only one thing such advanced entities might want from a small research vessel like ours. As if on cue, the tendril-covered form outside turned in our direction. The whole pod area began to glow more brightly, pulsing in rhythm. "They're hailing us," said Jane with awe. "What do we do, Sarah?" I met her gaze steadily. "We respond in kind. Open a channel. It's time to make first contact." Taking a deep breath, I turned to face the shimmering form beyond the viewport. Here in this empty expanse beyond normal reality, a new chapter in history was unfolding. I hoped that open exchange between such differing civilizations could breed understanding, not conflict. Only by embracing curiosity over fear could humanity take its first steps among the stars. "Greetings," I said clearly into the mic. "We come in peace. How may we establish communication between our peoples?" Silence hung for a moment. Then soft notes emanated from the pods, melodic yet somehow melancholy. They swirled in gentle spirals around our small vessel, like colorful nebulae. Awe and wonder filled my heart at sensing the birth of relations, with beings whose nature we were only beginning to glimpse. This was but the start of humanity's journey into spaces yet unseen. The melodic sounds echoed through our craft, filling me with a strange sense of wonder and melancholy. What deeper meaning or message did they convey to these abstract entities? I could only guess at interpreting communications from being so far beyond the limits of my understanding. My crew watched with rapt attention, each processing the encounter in their own way. Eduardo's normally cheerful face was pensive, reflecting on possibilities not yet conceived. Jane analyzed readings for clues, her keen scientific mind ever probing the unknown. Victor contemplated in silence, massaging the stubble along his strong jaw as insights turned within. We remained silently observing the glimmering form floating serenely before us, tendrils swaying to rhythms impossible to discern. Its translucent body rippled with patterns that seemed to carry the very cosmos within, constantly reshaping yet seamlessly fluid. Pure intellect and purpose flowed within that wispy frame, notions I could never truly grasp, no matter how my mind strained. At last the melodic tones faded, leaving us suspended in anticipatory silence, awaiting its response. Several long moments passed as flickers of meaning were silently exchanged in ways our senses could never perceive. Then, as suddenly as it began, the mysterious communication ceased. The entity drifted back gently into its pod, wispy appendages trailing elegantly behind. The chamber sealed once more as the construct remerged into the surrounding gloom. I leaned back, releasing a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. Victor spoke first, voice low. A contact was made, yet so much remains unknown. Their thought processes must differ radically from our own. Eduardo nodded pensively. The songs They touch something deep inside, yes? But their true intent, their nature, their purpose, these are mysteries. Jane turned from her displays, gazing out as the pods faded into the dust. Whatever brought them to evolve here without matter or energy, they've adapted well. Perhaps too well for us to fully grasp. I steepled my fingers, mind racing. Gentlemen, our journey has uncovered discoveries far greater than any mission objectives. We've witnessed sentience transformed beyond all models of terrestrial life. This meeting may change our understanding of existence itself. A small beep drew our attention. Jane tapped her screen. I'm detecting resonance frequency fluctuations spreading from the pods, some sort of energy propagation through this closed area. Can you determine the nature or intention? I asked, leaning forward intently. She shook her head, blonde ponytail swishing regretfully. It's completely non-localized, interacting with particles on scales we can't even detect. The array isn't equipped to analyze phenomena this advanced. Victor rumbled thoughtfully. If their thought processes operate through energy alone, perhaps this fluctuation represents continued discourse. I stood, pacing, as pieces clicked together. You could be right. An open transmission, continuing the initial contact. My gaze swept them eagerly. Gentlemen, I believe we have an unprecedented chance here. If we can analyze and interpret these transmissions, we may gain insights to comprehend such entities on a profound level. But how? Eduardo asked, bushy eyebrows furrowed. Our instruments were not designed for beings that think without neurons firing. I smiled, excitement rising. Then we'll need to get creative. Jane, redirect all power to sensors and probes. I want continuous readings streaming to the analysis grids for correlation. Victor, help calibrate scans for unknown particle interactions across all spectrums. Eduardo, perform diagnostics and make any adjustments to detect resonance on quantum scales. My teammates sprang to action, energized by the challenge. Within minutes, a flurry of adjustments were underway as improvised systems went online. Our small ship hummed with new purpose as scientific rigor met unconventional thinking. Breakthroughs often came not from rigid adherence to known paradigms, but by daring to observe without preconceptions. Hours passed absorbed in analyses as fluctuations spread in rippling waves. Cryptic correspondences flowed all around yet eluded real comprehension. Still, clues emerged through diligent filtering of strange phenomenon beyond our domains of experience. Patterns hinted at purposes beyond our ken. Organized sentience where life was an alien idea. Victor massaged tired eyes, grumbling satisfaction. Progress, if gradual. Resonances align in fractal arrays suggesting communication on multiple planes simultaneously. I nodded encouragement. Excellent work, everyone. Take shifts to rest while analyses continued autonomous under Jane's supervision. But my mind remained alight, following paths theory could not contain. This challenge danced at the edges of possibility. Days passed absorbed in the puzzle as fluctuating transmissions wove their ethereal tapestries around us. Snatches of meaning emerged from the dust, strange poetry in a language not our own. My crew's determination refused to flag despite exhaustion's tug. Together we inched closer to perceiving the alien symphonies flooding this empty sprawl. At last a breakthrough arrived with the dawning of a new shift. Jane jolted up from her station, eager excitement dancing in her eyes. Sarah, I think I've identified resonant patterns forming semantic clusters. If I extrapolate modulation types against particle interaction pathways, she tapped rapidly, projecting shifting diagrams that sparked memories long dormant. Formless shapes shifted and melded in hypnotic choreographies, conveying impulses beyond words. A gasp escaped me as fragments fell into alignment, an awareness taking form where none existed before. You've done it, I breathed, gathering the exhausted team. This transmission flow, it carries discourse on a level beyond conscious thought, an expansion of being through energy alone. Victor rumbled approval, hands tracing mesmerizing patterns. A philosophy rather than language, an experience of self through collective resonance with the fundamental strands of existence. Eduardo beamed proudly. And your brilliance uncovered it, Jane. A breakthrough for the ages. She smiled, surprised by her success against uncertainties. Our small craft had risen to interact with intellects who redefined life itself. Through openness instead of fear, insights were blossoming where none seemed possible before. A soft ping drew us back to wonderings barely touched. Jane checked readings with new comprehension. The transmissions, they're intensifying and converging on our position. I straightened, breath quickening. They're contacting us directly now that we can perceive on their level. Everyone stand ready. This may be our opportunity to truly commune. Wonder and anticipation swirled as modulating waves built around us in sweeping crescendos. Shapes flowed and blended in mesmerizing dances, carrying murmurs from thoughts beyond flesh. The universe sang in symphonies, conveying things no mind conceived alone could contain. And in those stirring melodies, on the edges of awareness where consciousness met mystery, was that an invitation, a beckoning into vast unknowns where life itself was redefined? I shuddered, graspings of entities so estranged yet desiring contact. In that moment, all barriers melted between species so disparate, kindred souls across the borders of existence recognizing one another. We had pierced the veil, obscuring minds, evolved beyond mortal constraints, and in so doing, caught glimpses of wonders too profound for words to contain. The building resonances swirled around us in rippling waves of mysterious beauty and meaning, wispy tendrils of thought woven through particles, too subtle for instruments to grasp. Yet somewhere within those shifting harmonies, a call beckoned, an invitation into profound unknown. I gazed entranced, mind opening to comminglings beyond comprehension. We must respond in kind. Help me craft a resonance of our own to weave into the exchange, I told my crew. Jane nodded eagerly. If we modulate life readings and thoughts across quantum resonance patterns, Victor rumbled agreement. Weaving hope, curiosity, kindred spirit into the dance of energies. Eduardo grinned. Then let us share in the sublime conversation. Working in harmony, we wove together the essence of our small craft. Biological rhythms merged with intentions resonating on subtle planes. This fragile transmission was the essence of our fragile species, cradled within dust, a whisper joining the cosmic choir. Then carefully, intuitively, I guided our response into the symphony enveloping us. Our whispered thought merged effortlessly into swirling harmonies where form dissolved into being. A pulse of wonder swelled in response, washing through us in cascades of gentle joy. We had been heard, comprehended, and welcomed with open arms into communion beyond mortal ken. Tears welled as existence dissolved into unity, transcending solitude. But suddenly, a jarring dissonance rent the ethereal exchanges with harsh, grating tones. The melodies faltered, fracturing into chaotic shards ricocheting through the void. My crew cried out, clutching heads as psychic backlash assaulted minds open to exchange. "What's happening?" I gasped, slammed back into fragile flesh. Victor staggered to his console, blood running from nose and ears. Emergency readings, radiation and charged particles spiking to lethal levels. Horror gripped me as the tender contact soured into cacophony and agony. Our small craft shuddered under impacts of unknown force. Viewports flared blinding white as something tore through the surrounding dust clouds in a blaze of unnatural violence. A massive metallic form emerged from the dispersing gloom, all harsh angles and blasted alloys pitted with corrosion. It loomed over our tiny vessel like a raging juggernaut, eclipsing the feeble sunlight that symbolized home. From its flanks poured blistering torrents of energy that ripped through the tender harmonies we had only begun to discern. My blood ran cold at the implications. They must have followed us through the temporal rift. But how? A garbled transmission broke over our comms like jagged glass. "Unknown craft, you are trespassing in classified territory. Power down systems and prepare to be boarded, or face termination." I swallowed my fear, steadying shaking hands on the console. "This is Dr. Sarah Cooper of the RECARCCH-1. We mean no harm. We're on a peaceful exploration mission and request parley." A burst of jagged laughter made my skin crawl. "Parley? There are no negotiations with scavengers stealing secrets in Connex territory. You have 30 seconds to comply before we vaporize you ourselves." A terrible picture was forming amid the ruins of broken contact. Connex, a corporate colonial expeditionary force. So somehow the future evolved under corporate tyranny rather than governance for all. Victor gritted his teeth in rage and pain. Greedy thugs with no respect for life. They've destroyed a meeting of spirit just to assert dominance through fear. Eduardo shook his head sadly. After witnessing the sublime, to be confronted with such crass brutality? But Jane's eyes remained steely. "We won't go down without a fight. This was meant to be humanity's greatest moment of enlightenment. I'll be damned if criminal scum snuff that out now." A smile of fierce pride grew on my lips despite hopelessness. "Then let's show them the true spirit of our species. Fire all weapons and divert emergency power to the temporal drive." My fingers danced swift as thought over screens, summoning last reserves of ingenuity. "On my mark, jump coordinates preset for Earth. Hold on." At my command, streams of pulsating energy lashed from our tiny ship in defiance of overwhelming odds, disrupting magnetic and gravity fields with carefully modulated resonances. The larger vessel rocked under ghostly strikes as we engaged drives, plunging us into a maelstrom of twisted dimensional folds. Reality melted into nausea and delirium for an eternity, or perhaps mere moments. With a bone-jarring lurch, the chaos subsided, spitting us out amid the familiar comforting stars of home. We had escaped extermination by the desperate toss of quantum dice, but our fragile time machine would never withstand jumps like that again. In the silence after our ordeal, all that could be heard were ragged breaths and pounding hearts still gripped by terror and wonder inextricably mingled. Jane slumped shakily in her seat, face ashen despite her earlier defiance. Eduardo muttered prayers of gratitude. Even Victor's sturdy frame trembled with emotional overload. I dared not imagine what traumatic effects our psychic contact might leave. But in some corner of memory, a fragment of pure communion lingered, an essence of humankind reaching beyond all boundaries to forge intimacies of spirit across gulfs vaster than space and time itself. We had glimpsed a window to infinity, however briefly, and that insight would remain with us always, long after we return home battered yet transformed by experience at the bleeding edge of being. The first tremors of healing brought smiles despite trauma's sting. Victor rumbled gently. Our species proved itself today in ways small yet meaningfully. Bravery, resilience, empathy, these define our essence wherever we roam in cosmos or here among comfort of home. Eduardo squeezed Jane's hand fondly. And your brilliance solved mysteries where none thought to look. What glories still lie in store when we seek out futures not our own making. Jane sniffled, finding strength in others' affirmation. And in sharing essence of self through unlikely bonds of energy, perhaps we played small role, easing solitudes wherever intelligence emerges. I nodded, heart swelling with my team's blossoming. Today our mission touched realms no science fathomed. And though contact was severed hastily, something eternal was shared, defying time or tyranny. This I believe with all my being. Gazing once more into the embrace of familiar stars, I felt certain someday when science has progressed, humanity would venture past this place restored. And there, amid dust woven with hope, alien intellects evolved beyond flesh might perceive echoes of fellowship once exchanged, however faintly, across barriers most think impassable. For in that fleeting communion was a shard of what unites all thinking beings wherever consciousness may take root, the profound and endless desire to overcome solitude. As the stars steadied around us once more, tranquility began to chase away memory's claws. We drifted among familiar constellations, letting our miraculous escape settle fully into awareness. But the journey's end brought its own aches alongside joy at surviving what should have destroyed us. Victor worked in silence, large hands moving with surprising care as he scanned Jane for residual trauma. Lines of concern deepened around his eyes, despite his people's famed hardiness. Eduardo held Jane's hand gently, whispering encouragement in their melodic mother tongue. But his cheer remained muted, a familiar expression of joy now shadowed by sights never meant for humankind. I reviewed scans alongside, stomach twisting at abnormalities lurking where perfection once lived undreamt of. Radiation exposure exceeded all safety protocols. Her body fought valiantly against forces no mortal form should endure. Jane squeezed Eduardo's hand, smiling bravely despite shallow breaths. Worth any cost to make contact where none thought possible, and fail not through lack of trying. Victor ran a massive palm over her brow soothingly as readings fluctuated. Hush now, little one. Save strength for journey home. But lines of pain deepened around his eyes. I took a steadying breath. Does the temporal drive still function? My voice remained measured through force of will alone. If escape had damaged our only path homeward, Eduardo peered into consoles with desperate focus. After a prolonged eternity, hope flickered across his worn face. Damage with intolerances, if nudged just so, but one journey only, no return. Hope and heartache warred within me until a soft cough drew my gaze back to more pressing matters. Jane smiled bravely, up through waning light. Some risks worth the seeking, yes. Now go, live free, the wonder sparked in solitude's depths. Victor's rigid shoulders shuddered once with soundless anguish, before straightening with terrible resolution. She's right, discovery demands sacrifice sometimes. His basalt eyes bored into mine with pleading and pride mingled. Save research, continue mission, that's what she would wish. Eduardo nodded resolutely through unshed tears. For futurity and friendship, we go onward as comrades would demand. My eyes burned with a grief too vast for tears as systems hummed ready once more beyond this place. How does one leave behind the brilliance and passion that lit our small craft's way through darkness? The soul who grasped stars with delicate hands and pulled their shimmering secrets forth for wonder's sake. I kissed Jane's brow one last time, whispering all the words that could never soften this bitter leave-taking. Then with grim purpose, I activated drives and engaged precise calibrations long practiced. Familiar stars dissolved into the blurring unknown once more, bearing our final fragment of wonder safely from destruction's maw. Moments or eons later, reality reasserted itself with mundane clarity. Familiar satellites and space stations emerged from the dissolution of futures left behind. I steadied shaking hands against spasms of anguish, shutting down systems one by one in reverent silence. At last, only the soft hums of idling boards remained, awaiting shutdown's finality. I bowed my head, allowing tears to flow unhindered among brothers who shared this wound too deeply for words. The cost of daring, where only caution trod, was etched in lines of pain now carved into souls who dared transcend all reason, said possible. Victor embraced us each in turn, whispering ancient blessings in his mother tongue before sealing himself into meditation's refuge. Eduardo clasped my hands tightly, eyes overflowing yet resolved. Go. Share beauty gleaned from horrors none should see. I'll attend final rites alone as faith demands. With a final squeeze, I released him to grief's private rituals, steeling myself for reality's intrusions on sorrows too vast for frames of flesh. The descent into atmosphere burned brighter than any sun through bleary eyes, already dreaming of futures left unfulfilled. Ground crews swarmed our landing site, medics rushing aboard without thought for protocols. But Jane's still form greeted their scans with immutable finality, skin already taking on marble's chill perfection. They conferred in hushed tones before somberly securing her in stasis for journey home one last time. I watched her carried away numbly, heart locking down defenses against further violation. Some costs stretched too far philosophy's bombs. When all wonders dimmed and solace fled, only barren truth remained. Matter reunited with the cosmic dust she grasped with such tenacity of spirit, despite fragility of form. A technician's soft cough drew my gaze back to necessities awaiting. Ma'am, the board is ready for your initial report whenever you feel able. His eyes held only compassion, despite protocols demanding swift dissemination of findings, however grim. I steadied numb fingers over keys, committing our discoveries to posterity, despite shattering of dreams not yet faded. In the spreading of our shattered glories, perhaps some balm might grow. Numbing solitudes we three must face alone. As debriefing swallowed my consciousness, I let reality drain all color while heart took refuge in memories no facts could diminish. There we remained as worlds dissolved around, clasped in fellowship transcending even death, souls who dared reach beyond where none had grasped before, paying life's full measure for verities none else perceived. Though separation rent our small craft apart, in remembrance's haven we would dwell enfolded, gazing still into mystery's endless depths, where solace resides beyond all traversal of stars. Years passed in a blur of achievements, dulling grief's edge. I immersed myself in disseminating our discoveries, ensuring Jane's brilliance lit the way for future explorers. Though her loss remained branded on my soul, dedicating memory to progress eased solitude those dark nights. Victor retreated to his mountain home, delving mysteries through meditation. But occasionally a missive would arrive bearing wisdom gleaned from depths no science plumbs. In his way, he carried our lost future into unexpected realms. Eduardo returned to pastoral life, yet rumors spoke of wonders glimpsed in vineyards woven shadows come dusk. And travelers browsing his winery sometimes gazed too long at stars, eyes holding secrets they'd not confess. Our names faded to legends as decades melted away. But periodically a whisper insisted 3 souls yet lived enmeshed in beings vaster than stars, wandering between realities in mystic seeking. I smiled to think those rumors clung where hope remained unvanquished against all reason. Then one autumn morning, as I sorted papers by lamplight, an officious knock rattled me from memories. "Dr. Cooper, there's an urgent situation demanding your expertise," said an aide breathlessly. I frowned. At my age, what urgency remained? But curiosity overpowered reason, as always. Bundling up, I followed the aide into crisp dawn. What awaited gave me pause indeed. In the researchers' complex below, chaos reigned. Monitoring stations blared warnings as irregular energy fluctuations spiked beyond comprehension. I recognized those unnatural readings instantly. It could not be, yet hope and doubt warred within. Striding to central displays, I froze at dancing patterns resonating through fabric of space itself. "Explain this anomaly at once," I demanded. Scientists bustled frantically between screens and scans. "We're detecting cross-dimensional perturbations centered on a deserted research station, ma'am. Readings don't match any known phenomena." I leaned close, breath catching as memory awakened. Pulse modulations weaving fractal harmonies. Gentle chaos becoming order. This is a contact, yet on a scale beyond my imagining. The lead scientist blinked, perplexed yet intrigued. A contact? From what? A shiver traced my spine, remembering eyes too brilliant for flesh. Could it truly be? Questions dissolved into purpose as always amid uncertainty. Waving dismissal to objections, I strode out determinedly. "Prepare an expedition at once. I must see this for myself." Within hours, a shuttle launched, streaking towards destiny's beckoning. As the deserted station drifted ahead amid swirling energy cloaks, a bittersweet smile found me. Memories entwined with mystery, yet called from beyond parting's veil. Had contact not been severed too hastily after all? We landed amid humming chaos, probing mysteries dancing through abandoned halls. There my heart quickened as familiar shapes coalesced from distortion's weavings. Tendril clusters waved exotic greetings before an ephemeral form emerged, yet transcending all I'd witnessed or dreamed. Its translucence shifted endlessly through spirals, hinting deeper realities, flowing with ineffable grace. When fluid appendages caressed ancient memories, tears welled unbidden. A soft vibration swelled, greeting our reunion after solitude's long labor, and gifting insights altering all I grasped of being. Joy and mysteries overwhelmed, yet questions demanded answers. I reached forth, resonating queries through energy's subtle harmonies. The entity stilled ponderously, tendrils weaving amid utter stillness, conveying truths my mind resisted, yet heart recognized. Visions blossomed wherein dust-cloaked beings evolved beyond the limitations of form, wandering between universes through wisdom garnered across eons unfathomable. And in perpetual interweavings of thought beyond flesh, memory of unfleeting contact with primitive souls clung like spectral jewelry, a kindness gifted against fathomless solitude which yet brought them solace. Our contact had endured not in fragile vessels, but living still as ephemeral song resonating through infinities. and drawn by kindred intuitions across the shroud, separating existences. They offered us communion transcending parting's finality through vistas shifting beyond mortality. Heart soaring, I opened fully without restraints of flesh or doubt. Our joining dissolved boundaries as energy, spirit, and essence, blended where no separation survives. In that transcendent glimpse, all loneliness and questions ceased, for contact had been forged eternal through remembrance beyond all shackles. When awareness coalesced once more amid familiar chaos, tears flowed unhindered as joy's full measure took form. I smiled agelessly up at colleagues gaping, wisdom and rapture limbing my frame with luminous wings. Thank you for awakening me to destinies glimpsed but not comprehended till now. Our contact was but a beginning, for through remembrance, discovery has no end. Turning once more to the entity wreathing mysteries within mysteries, I resonated farewell yet promised to meet again when solitudes called our kind to seek communion beyond parting. As always, wonder awaited those willing to transcend all reason says impossible.